The art of the unbothered, mastering strategic silence. Most people forfeit their power the second they open their mouths. They are baiting you, waiting for a flinch, a gasp, or a retort. But what if your most lethal weapon wasn't a comeback? What if it was total, crushing silence? Today, we master the art of the unbothered, the anatomy of the limbic trap. The sting of a verbal barb across a dinner table isn't merely social friction. It is a calculated assault on your psychological borders. You feel the heat rise in your chest, the desperate urge to strike back with a wit that cuts deeper. But in that reflexive noise, your power evaporates. True authority does not bark. It looms in the heavy silence of the composed. To master the strategic silence of a figure like Tywin Lannister, we must first perform a forensic autopsy on the most common human failure, the System 1 reaction. When an adversary weaponizes your history to trigger your insecurity, your brain undergoes a biological surrender. The amygdala, the ancient sentinel of fear, hijacks your prefrontal cortex. This is the limbic trap. In this state, you are no longer a sovereign individual. You are a biological machine responding to an external stimulus, as predictable as a light switch. The observation. Look at Tywin at the head of the Great Hall. His children, Cersei, Tyrion, Jaime, approach him with frantic, jagged energy. Their voices are perpetually raised, begging for validation or sparked by rebellion. They operate in the high-frequency noise of emotional desperation. To the Stoic observer, this noise is legible weakness. By reacting, Tywin would signal that their words have the power to alter his internal state. He refuses to grant them that victory. He remains a fixed point while they orbit him in chaos. Familial intimacy creates what we call encroachment literacy. Because they know you, they know exactly where your psychological walls are thinnest. When you respond with heat, you provide symmetric escalation. You meet their low-status emotionality with your own, effectively surrendering your affective sovereignty. You become a mirror of their dysfunction rather than a master of the room. To be unbothered is to realize that silence isn't just the absence of noise. It is the presence of absolute self-regulation. It is the refusal to be moved by a hand that did not build you. If you're tired of being a biological machine at the mercy of other people's moods, hit that subscribe button. Let's reclaim your sovereignty and build a mind that cannot be shaken. The protocol of present silence, reclaiming your sovereignty. In the architecture of power, the most formidable structure is not a fortress, but the wall of silence. To navigate high-stakes friction, one must master the protocol of present silence. This is not a passive retreat. It is an active, heavy, and deliberate occupation of space. It is the tactical application of a vacuum. The tyrant's desk, a lesson in social suspension. Imagine Tywin Lannister at his desk. The only sound is the rhythmic, mechanical scratching of his quill against parchment. His son enters, simmering with grievances, desperate for a reaction. The air is thick with a need for an emotional payout, a bridge to drag Tywin into the mud of emotional turmoil. But Tywin does not look up. By refusing to acknowledge the intrusion immediately, he forces the intruder to exist in a state of social suspension. This is the mastery of the entrance. While our instinct is to meet the speed of the attacker, mistaking velocity for strength, speed is actually a confession of agitation. By maintaining your rhythm, reading, breathing, or sipping water, you signal that your internal world is governed by different laws. This is functional compartmentalization, the physics of the void. As the silence stretches, the physics of the room begin to shift. The aggressor finds themselves punching a void. We call this the chiaroscuro effect. The more they lean into the light of their frantic expression, the deeper your shadow becomes. The silence becomes a mirror, forcing them to observe their own lack of self-mastery. Within this protocol, we utilize encroachment literacy to categorize the attack without absorbing the heat. You don't hear an insult, you hear a limbic discharge. While they burn through their cognitive reserves in a heat of passion, you activate System 2, your analytical mind. You are searching for the zero response point, that precise moment they become vulnerable to a single, measured word. The 3 phases of tactical silence. To implement this protocol, follow these 3 phases. The absorption phase. Let their words hang in the air. Do not rush to fill the gap. Let the echoes of their aggression reveal their own instability. The diagnostic phase. Look them directly in the eye with a neutral, observing gaze. You are not an adversary, you are a scientist examining a specimen. The pivot phase. Ask a clinical, surgical question. What outcome are you seeking with that tone? Reclaim your sovereignty. This isn't just about winning an argument, it's about maintaining the integrity of your internal state. When you refuse to be moved, you become the unshakable center of the room. Drop a sovereign in the comments if you've ever used silence to win a room. Tell me how it felt to watch the power dynamics shift in your favor. If you are ready to stop being a biological machine and start being a master of your own environment, hit that subscribe button. Let's reclaim your sovereignty. The sovereign outcome. The ultimate consequence of this detachment is the birth of post-heroic leadership. Tywin Lannister does not lead by shouting into the void. He leads by being the fixed point around which chaos is forced to stabilize. When you master the art of silence, you cease to be a mere participant in the drama. You become its director. The sovereign outcome is the total dissolution of the desperate need to be right. Most people are prisoners of their own validation, but when you no longer feel the impulse to defend your ego, you become truly unassailable. This is what we call effective sovereignty. Under this lens, you begin to see conflict differently. It is no longer a personal threat. It is a diagnostic symptom of the other person's internal disorder. Your refusal to engage communicates a devastating truth. Your peace is too valuable to be traded for a clever retort. Mastery of the environment. In your own life, whether navigating a high-stakes boardroom or a volatile holiday dinner, the objective is never to win the argument. Winning implies a struggle. Instead, your goal is to make the argument irrelevant. You must become the eye of the storm. Your stillness is not passivity. It is the quiet confidence of a sovereign who has already decided the outcome before the first word was ever spoken. You are no longer 2 bodies colliding in a friction of wills. You are the space itself, vast, cold, and indifferent to the sparks flying within it. From conflict to kingdom. This represents the vital transition from managing friction to achieving long-term environmental mastery. You are no longer managing a localized conflict, you are maintaining a kingdom. The sovereign's mindset. Carry this detachment not as a jagged weapon to wound others, but as a sanctuary to protect yourself. In the profound stillness of your own mind, you are the only authority. The noise, the insults, and the frantic energy of the world are nothing more than shadows. You are the light that defines them, and shadows cannot harm the light. If you found this clinical breakdown valuable, share it with one person who needs to find their eye of the storm. Now, go be the fixed point in your own world.